Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's global webinar. I am Adrija Dash. I am the campus director at St. Xavier's College, Kolkata, India, and I will be moderating today's global webinar. And as all of you guys are joining in, please feel free to introduce yourselves with your name, the university you're from, the country you're from, the project you're doing, the SDG you're advancing in the chat box. And today's webinar is on advancing Sustainable Development Goal of gender equality, that is SDG 5 through UN Women. And we are joined by Ines Esteban Gonzalez from UN Women. So thank you very much for joining us today. Without further ado, I would like to begin today's webinar with introducing our speaker. Ines is a member of the Civil Society Division in UN Women, and the organization she joined in 2010. Much of her work focuses on the youth. She completed her undergraduate in studies in journalism from Spain, where she's originally from, and then her master's in international relations. She is also extremely passionate about filmmaking and storytelling and studied filmmaking at the School of Visual Arts. She specializes in communications, advocacies, and partnerships to achieve gender equality and women empowerment. She's equally vehement about supporting women's leadership, challenging and dismantling structures of discrimination, taboos, and patriarchy, and advocate for women's rights through storytelling. She firmly believes in stories of women as stories of gender equality. With this, it's my honor to welcome you, Ines, and hand over the floor to you for further introduction and comments for all the fellows. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Adrija. And thank you to the wonderful team. Thank you to Abigail and to Noha and to all the people in the Millennium Campus Network for for this opportunity, for inviting me to be part of this webinar. I really enjoy opportunities like this to engage with young people and young leaders like you. And I want to start by congratulating you on your selection. I heard that there were more than 25,000 applicants for more than 2,000 campuses, and only about 2,400 were selected. So you should be really proud and inspired and take this opportunity to grow, to learn, and to grow as leaders of today and tomorrow. So as Adrija said, my name is Ines Esteban. I'm part of UN Women Civil Society Division, and I was a young student in my mid-20s. I'm sure many of you are also in your early and mid-20s. When someone from the UN came to my university. Is everything okay? Okay. Yes. So yes, I was a student, as Adrija mentioned. I was a student in international relations, and I was studying the role of the UN in peace and sustainability for citizens of the world. But for me, as for many people, and I'm sure many of you as well, the UN was a very, very distant reality. So for me, meeting in these UN staff who were telling me about the amazing work they were doing, it was really something that made, the UN accessible, and I decided to apply. So I hope this opportunity of hearing me and speaking and, exchanging views will also encourage you to apply to the UN, because the UN really needs young people. We need your innovation. We need your bold spirit. We want to hear your truth to power. So I wanted to say that at the beginning. Let me, because I'm not sure if many of you are familiar with the work that UN Women does. So let me start by giving a little bit of an overview of what we do. So UN Women is a strong voice for women's rights, for advancing, for educating, and for pushing all parts of the system to mainstream gender in our work in the UN system, for governments, for all kinds of stakeholders. We have supported legislation and services to end violence against women in more than 60 countries. More than 175 legal reforms and 25 constitutional reforms to strengthen women's rights have been promoted by UN Women. We continue working every single day because this is a work in progress. We have seen how the gender-based violence during the pandemic has spiked. We have seen how young women's and girls' rights are at risk of the domestic violence during the pandemic, and how we really run the risk on going backwards, right? So this is really a work in progress that we devote ourselves every day. The good thing is we have seen over the past decade how feminism is acquiring new visibility, is really part of the public discussion. And I want to say here that, this is a big part of it is thanks to the activism of young people. How you guys have taken, gender equality to the next level, but not only gender equality, also climate change, movements for racial justice. This is, thanks to you guys, to young people who are really leading and at the forefront of all these movements. I want to also celebrate your leadership, because I think this is really amazing. How you have been leading all kinds of initiatives during the pandemic, how you think that we need to build back better. And this is something that in UN Women we are taking very seriously, to build back better after the pandemic, how we can strengthen institutions and rule of law, etc. We think that we need to lead in an intergenerational way. We need to work together so we can find solutions to the responses and the afterward of the COVID-19 pandemic. So we are really determined to work together with young people to bring new innovative solutions to the problems that we are facing. And having said that, I know this webinar is about a very particular topic, which is philanthropy, and learning the trends and procedures and perspectives to support social impact projects. And when I was thinking about what my speech or my remarks should be about, then it took a minute to come up with, of course, the Generation Equality Forum in Paris that we hosted this year, because it was really we managed to raise $40 billion with this, during the Generation Equality Forum. So this is the biggest financial commitment that, philanthropy, governments, private sector has done towards gender equality. So let me, I'm sure, some of you know about the Generation Equality Forum that happened this year. Last year, we celebrated the 25th anniversary of the Beijing Platform for Action. But because last year the world stopped, we couldn't host the Generation Equality Forum in 2020. So it was the celebration of the Beijing Platform for Action. So that's the reason why we hosted this forum in Paris and in Mexico. It was it was a multi-stakeholder effort. It was UN Women leading with the government of France and the government of Mexico, civil society, and youth. So it was really all at the same level. I think that was one of the really innovative things that that it was shown during this forum, that we can lead together. It was really at the same, in the decision-making table, all at the same level, deciding. It was very complex, as you can imagine. And if you have follow-up questions, I can, of course, dive into those. But yes, I mean, it was an effort led by UN Women with governments, youth, civil society. The idea was to really a big boost to the gender equality agenda, to come up with bold, action-oriented points so we can achieve gender equality by 2030, which is what the Sustainable Development Goals are pushing for. But because we saw that we really needed more commitments, we needed more energy from the different stakeholders if we wanted to achieve gender equality by 2030. So that's why we organized the Generation Equality Forum. And as I said, $40 billion of investment were confirmed, which represents really a major step change in resourcing women's and girls' rights. And as you know, lack of financing is widely understood to be a major reason for why there's slow progress in advancing gender equalities. So these 40 billions really represent, it really is big and great news for women and girls of the world. From the 40 billions, 21 billion were committed by governments, public sector, let's say institutions, 13 billions by private sector, and 4.5 billions by philanthropies. This comes, we think, in a very important and critical moment because of the COVID-19 pandemic and how it has affected women and girls. So gender equality advocates like you, like others, have been pressing for gender-responsive stimulus recovery plans. So we really hope that these 40 billions will go into this building back better agenda that we are pushing and that we all wish for. So what would the key to success, how did we manage to mobilize these $40 billion? So I think the success in part was because we came up with a very concrete roadmap to achieve the agenda. The Global Acceleration Plan for Gender Equality is what one of the big outcomes. It is it's like a roadmap for achieving the Agenda 2030. This came with the 6 action coalitions by themes, and these themes from ending gender-based violence, economic justice, sexual reproductive health and rights, climate change, movement leadership, and feminist movements and leadership, plus the Compact on Women, Peace and Security. All these areas were identified as key areas to achieve gender equality, and these are part of the Global Acceleration Plan for Gender Equality that came associated with these, 40 billion commitments. So a clear agenda, clear, steps that we wanted to follow was key for the success. So we need a plan. We need a very good, concrete plan with concrete actions. Who is going to implement those actions? If you're interested, I can talk a little bit more about the Global Acceleration Plan for Gender Equality later on. But that was, I wanted to mention it. The other key to success was, the over 1,000 commitments to advance gender equality that were made by governments, private sector, civil society, youth organization, commitments that came organically from all of them, from their points of view, from where they stand, so they can really, from their organizations and where they sit, how they can achieve gender, how they can contribute to the gender equality agenda. So the message was really clear. we want to accelerate gender equality in the next 5 years. We are willing to face the growing risks. We have a plan. We have the right partners, and we're going to do this. So as we move, as you can imagine, I mean, the implementation of this is going to be like quite complex, but it's a great, inspiring challenge for all of us. I think the big, the key also to success for this implementation will be to have an effective follow-up measures for monitoring, for assessing the situation, and for maintaining the momentum of all these partnership, multi-stakeholder partnerships, and transformative spirits. So this is the journey we are in, and I'm happy to answer more questions if you have.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was so insightful as well, because during the pandemic, it did seem like there were so many legislatures being passed that felt like we are going backwards rather than moving forward. So before we move on to the question answer session, I would like to remind the fellows that if they have any questions, they can drop it in the chat box that's given. Please do mention your name, the campus you're from, the country you're from, along with the question. So I wanted to know that for young people like me, and I imagine so many of young fellows out there who want to join UN Women at some point, what would be the steps that that we should take in our undergraduate studies and, and ahead in our academic careers that would help us join UN Women?
So thank you so much, Adrija, for the question. In my case, and I always like to speak about my story, my case. I was a student of my master's, and then I had the opportunity to apply for an internship. So I applied and I got the internship, and later on I got a consultancy and then a fixed term position. Now, why I'm also mentioning the internships is because in the past, interns in UN Women and currently in other parts of the UN system were not paid. So at my time, I had to come to New York all the way from Spain, pay this, very expensive city, rent, everything, and I didn't get any. So I had to, to fund everything by myself. Now, interns in UN Women get an stipend, so they are paid some. It depends on some factors, but now internships are paid. So this is really great news for young people who are not necessarily, who don't come from necessarily, a wealthy family. They cannot, survive by themselves because, as I said, UN Women in New York is a very expensive city. So internships is an option. Then the other option, as you know, is a consultancy. Consultants work for UN Women and for other parts of the UN system for a very concrete projects. So if you are an expert on, let's say, climate change, and we are looking for someone, climate change and gender equality, and we are looking for someone who to work on a report or do some research about effect of climate change and gender equality, etc. That's something that you may want to do for very concrete project deliverables. So these two would be I think the easiest to enter the UN system and UN Women.
Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it because I'm sure many fellows here are willing to join UN Women in some way, shape, or form, and that really helps. Another question would be, what are the most important or most impactful projects UN Women has undertaken for women in various communities, especially the marginalized sections? that they are doing. We would love to hear about them.
Okay, that I I could talk for hours, but okay, I guess, you know, marginalized women are at the heart of our work because you know, the intersectional, because we work, UNAI works with an intersectional perspective. And let me just, you know, quickly, I know this is, you know, it can be like really abstract and complex, but it is not. Like intersectional and intersectional lens is what we use to say, okay, so a woman can be discriminated because of her gender, but also because of her race, because of her sexual orientation, her class, the disability. So there are many, many identities that a woman has, right? So someone can be, yes, can be a woman, Afro-descendant, and with a disability. And all these affect, can be factors of discrimination. Now, this doesn't mean that, you know, that this person is, you know, more, I mean, it's not to victimize the person, is on the contrary, is to find solutions and to design programs and policies so they are more like, you know, they fit better, right, to the multiple identities that a person has. So the reason why I'm mentioning this is because, you know, as I said at the beginning, marginalized women are at the heart of our work because of the, you know, the leave no one behind policy that the UN operates under. So we really don't want to leave anyone behind. That's why we have to take into account everything that I said, not only gender, but also race, class, abilities, languages, if they come from a rural or an urban community, all these things. So everything affects. Now our work is, you know, work with, you know, is divided into like different themes. Like, as I said, gender-based violence. We work to end violence against women. We work on economic justice and economic empowerment, women, peace and security, women as peace builders, and then leadership and boosting the feminist movement. So we apply this, you know, intersectional lens and focus on marginalized women in all the work that we do.
Thank you so much. It really is like such intersectionality in feminist movement is so important. And like I'm a student of sociology, so we do read about feminism, and they just added intersectionality into it. And it sounds so amazing that we get to use it in our projects as well. I would really love to know one thing. Like I personally have faced this multiple times. So I'm working on a project which is based on SDG 4 of quality education. And one of the part of the project is teaching adolescents and kids about, you know, basic sex ed and good touch and bad touch. But when we go to, you know, ask permission from the guardians or parents, they really do not. Most of the time, I understand it's a taboo and they don't really want to talk about it. So how do you ensure, while working with such diverse communities, that they listen to your problems, listen to what you have to say, and you know, they work with you? Like, how do you ensure that?
You mean like, you know, there is no like one size fits all, right? Because it's very important to, you know, to find the right narrative for the right people. We cannot talk the same in, you know, a country in the US or in Africa or in Asia, Arab states, Latin America. I mean, each country, each context is completely different. And the idea is, and we have to really, you know, tailor the, you know, what we want to say to each specific country, context, or community. because, as I said, something that may work in Panama may not work in Uganda. So it is very important to, of course, take into account the cultural aspect and the social aspect. But as you know, one of the things, sometimes it's easy really to pass a law, something in a policy. But what really what really counts is the implementation, and the implementation is very much linked to the social norms aspect, the cultural aspect. So Women has identified social norms and stereotypes as a big important drive for change in our work for the next 5 years. We have been working with social norms since our inception, but we really want to deepen and I think that's related to your question. We need to change hearts and minds if we want to achieve gender equality.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, taboos and constraints has always been associated when you work in a particular community, and it becomes hard at times, but you just keep like the larger goal in your head and just move ahead. So it's really insightful to get answers that we can really change people's heart and mind. So thank you so much for answering that. So we will open the Q&A for the fellows as well who are attending. So before I do so, I would again remind all the fellows to put down their question in the chat box. Please mention your name, mention the country you're from, the campus you're from, so it would make the discussion much easier. But we have a first question, I think, from Karan Krishnamurthy. If you would unmute yourself and ask the question.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, Ines. Thank you so much for speaking on gender equality. I find this particularly relevant because my project actually focuses on gender equality, that is SDG 5. So the question that I had is, before I ask my question, I'm a second-year student and I'm majoring in biotechnology from Amity University, Mumbai, India. And my project is focused around, empowering women by, spreading women's rights and also giving them opportunities so that they can sustain themselves independently and giving them more opportunities to, earn money for themselves and the like. So the question I had was that, I find that one of the obstacles to achieving gender equality stems from the perpetuation of gender-based stereotypes, norms, and roles because of, cultural or religious customs and traditions. So how do you propose that we can go about this?
To change social norms and fight stereotypes. Thank you so much, Karan, for your question. And I just want to remind before I start talking about your question that 11th of October is the International Day of the Girl. And this year is about technology and access to technology. So just in case, someone is not up to date on that, and it is such an important field of work for us now because we have seen how also the COVID pandemic has deepened this gender digital divide. So it is really great that you're working on technology and also with a focus on gender equality. So we, in our experience, working, for example, with religious leaders has proved effective. If we, not, of course, religious leaders have to be also chosen well because from a more progressive, spectrum. But working with faith leaders, and also with leaders of, communities, it is also, quite important. I'm now working on something that I'm very, excited about, and it's like, working on changing social norms and challenging stereotypes in TV and cinema, because we know the power of, all this, TV and cinema has in our lives and in changing our perceptions. So I think that is also a very important field of work. Is a niche, that, at least in the UN, we haven't explored much and that we really need to work on. So media, TV, that really shapes our attitudes and our perceptions. So I'm mentioning this because I'm really, really excited. We launched a call to action for more gender equality in film and TV in the Generation Equality Forum in Paris. And the idea is to expand that and so it can become like a program of work. I don't know if I have answered your question, Karen. Feel free to follow up if you want.
No, I feel like it is a really good start. Like approaching religious leaders can be one step because, they are the ones who spread information about, the practices in their, whatever they believe in or whatever they're following. So I think this can be a very good start because I'm from India and we find that, a lot of people adhere very strongly to the religion and to the culture which they're following. So here, this is one problem which I have been facing. I think your answer really helped a lot.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Ines. Thank you, Karen, for your question. The next question is from Petrovis Gabriel Okidi. So if you're able to unmute yourself and ask the question.
Okay, thank you. Petrovis Gabriel Okidi from Makerere University, Uganda. Yes, so my question is, what one thing can I do to create a great impact on social gender in my organization?
So that is a very good question. I can send you some information around, for example, we have a big opportunity now for advocacy. 16 days of activism is coming up very soon. As you may know, 25th November, we commemorate the International Day for Elimination of Violence Against Women. So 25th November, we kick off these 16 days. Starts 25th November until 10th of December, which is Human Rights Day. So we have these 16 days to do activism, to take action, and to, energize your community to fight violence against women. You can find, advocacy tools and for online and offline actions on our UN Women website. But I can make sure that I can, that I send the advocacy package for 16 days. Okay, so you can have it, Petrovas. Sorry, your name is Gabriel or Petrovas? I just wanted to make sure that I had your name right. Is Gabriel?
Yes, Gabriel Petrovas.
Okay, Gabriel. So I will make sure that I send to Abigail or to Adrija or hi Sam, by the way, I've seen you. So good to see you. Thank you so much for the invitation. So I will make sure that I send this advocacy tool to the fellows so they can share it with all of you. But 16 days of activism is a really great starting point for that.
Amazing. Thank you so much. That would really help to get a head start on advocacy for so many of us here. So the next question is from Dorothy from Kaduna State University, Nigeria. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. So if you could unmute and ask your question.
Okay, good afternoon. Okay, my question is on maternal mortality. I want to know if you have any work done or any work in progress that is related to maternal mortality. I and my campus fellows were working on maternal mortality for our project because of the high rates of maternal mortality here in Nigeria. So we want to know if you have any work on maternal mortality or anyone in progress. Thank you, Ma.
Yes, so thank you so much, Dorothy, for your question. So, really, to be honest, is our sister agency, UNFPA, is leading that area of work, UNFPA, and I'm absolutely sure that in Nigeria they have programs on maternal mortality. We may we may have something, but it's not a big area of focus for UN Women, but it is for UNFPA. Yes, thank you, Noha. So on the chat you will see the link to UNFPA and the section on maternal mortality.
Thank you so much, Dorothy, for this amazing question, and Ines for sharing with us the link as well. The next question is from Laura. If you could unmute and ask your question.
Hello. I hope you can hear me well.
Hi, Laura. Yes.
So my question probably is more of an observation. I believe you've talked of internships. Yes, most people don't get paid to intern in an organization, but then you find the intern is definitely doing all the work. They're being overworked. They're doing what the normal person who's being paid for the same job, they're getting paid for it, but then the intern is being overworked. Seeing that the intern does not have much power, there's already a difference in power dynamics, and the older people in the organization always feel like they're a threat. Okay, it's not just in gender issues. I feel like it's almost in every organization where older people feel like, okay, if you're doing better, then at some point you're going to take our jobs. So I feel like it's more of harassment at the workplace. But then what can an intern do in such a position? And you're really working, even in a gender institution, you don't have much power or something, but what can you do? Thank you.
I mean, that's really relevant. I wouldn't say harassment, but I definitely have to, acknowledge there are some power dynamics that are really, sometimes, not good for young people. So I think we in the UN system in general, I think in many, many organizations, we really need to do a power analysis and see how we are operating our power dynamics. We, as an organization, are learning really, honestly, how we can co-lead, how we can coexist, how we can co-design everything with young people. Because we have seen, sometimes even when we work in, I'm part of the civil society division of the youth team, and sometimes it's we realize that we have a learning curve in terms of co-leading with young people. So I don't think this is something that happens only in UN Women. I think this happens in the UN system and in many other, companies and organizations and private companies, etc. We really need to review how all these structures operate and be more flexible. We have to hear more, be more understanding of interns and youth needs, because you have specific needs and you have specific priorities. So hear them and prioritize them and see how we can address. So all this is part of this power analysis that I'm talking about, that we are very much conscious of, that we need to do in our organization. But, of course, when you are an intern, part of the reason why you want to join an organization like UN Women is to learn. So there is also a learning curve for you guys, but of course for us as well. And that's why I wanted to stress the fact that we pay interns, because we didn't in the past. And other organizations in the UN system don't pay interns. And I think this is one of the big problems. Also because we want to have people coming from different backgrounds. We don't want rich people only who can afford to pay apartments in New York City. We want people from all kinds of backgrounds. So that's but yes, I mean, I acknowledge that, and I also can tell you that we are making a big effort to overcome all these challenges.
Yeah, actually internships, we are at a position where we are, starting to do internships, and at times this not getting paid or not being respected in the workplace, I'm sure it's not just with the United Nations. As you said, it's with every corporation, and everybody could just, learn. There's no harm in learning again, unlearn and then learn. So it's refreshing to hear again that UN Women is paying their interns, because it would diversify the demographic as well. So thank you, Laura, for the question, and thank you, Ines, for the amazing answer. I think Gloria has raised her hand. Do you want to ask the question?
Thank you so much for this session. And my question is, so my project revolves around SDG 5, gender equality. So I want to talk to girls from different spheres of life, mainly go to like secondary schools, talk to girls and boys, but majorly girls, about what they can do, the ways they can cope if they find themselves in situations like this. So what I want to ask majorly is, what would you suggest? What are the areas you would suggest that I pay attention to?
So thank you, Gloria. So I think you will know better. So what's your country again?
Nigeria.
Oh, Nigeria. Okay. So what I would recommend is, because each country has specific needs. So what I would, suggest is that you put in touch, you reach out to our office in Nigeria, the UN Women office in Nigeria.
UN Women.
The UN Women office, yes, in Nigeria, and see what are the, because I can suggest that, we work on ending violence against women, economic justice, peace and security and everything. But I think it will be more useful for you if you address the specific, needs and areas of work of your country or your community, if you want to focus on a specific community.
Thank you very much. Then, how do I create a safe space for these girls to be able to, express themselves in regards to those who have experienced abuse, domestic violence, etc.?
How do you create, what?
How do I create a safe space for them to be able to? Yes.
That's very important. That's really, really important. And when you are talking online, it's also extremely important to put in place all these safety measures, because online violence and online harassment is a reality. So are you looking into doing this online or offline?
So I'm looking to do it online and offline. Online once, then offline about twice, to go to 2 different secondary schools, then have one online webinar.
Okay, so I think for online, there are some also concrete measures that you can take for to keep that space safe. I can look into, I don't know it by heart really, but I know it has to do with with passwords, with I can look for the information and give it to you in a couple of minutes, okay? But I don't know. But if you're really interested, I can also send it to you via Adrija or Abigail. I can send you, because we do have, we work on access to safe technology and, fighting online and violence and harassment. That's a very important work when we are talking specifically about girls and young women. So I can look for that information and send it to you.
Okay. How do I get your Twitter handle, or?
How do you what? Sorry?
How will I get that information directly? Are you on LinkedIn?
No, but I can definitely send it to Abigail, Adrija, Noha, and so they can pass it on to you, Gloria.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for your work.
Thank you, Gloria, for the question. Before anybody we move on to the next question, I would like to remind you, so please do introduce yourself before you ask your question. So the next question is from Mariam. She's from University College London. If you can unmute yourself and ask the question, please.
Hi, everyone. My question was just, I was wondering about how you'd go about facilitating trust and and encouraging a two-way effort with the people you work with, since it's really common for people to feel perhaps skeptical towards international interventions, etc.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mariam. Yes. So, having the trust of, youth and our allies is extremely important. And this is also related to the question that one of your colleagues, I think Laura, asked about, the power dynamics and everything. Let me go back to what I said. I think it is, in working with young people, I think it is extremely important to understand, to listen what their needs, what the priorities are, so we can amplify, we can address the needs. And I think it's also important to understand that, to have always in mind that power dynamics. So we don't make mistakes, no? So I think also the mentoring programs and capacity strengthening are also important points for that. And you guys know about it because the Millennium Campus is doing amazing work in terms of mentoring and capacity strengthening. So that would be also important to for an organization, if an organization wants to build trust. Instead of just taking things, to make an emphasis on what we can do for you, what we can do for you. And capacity strengthening, mentoring is also an important thing. I think also, the COVID-19 pandemic has, been very traumatic for, I think, most of us. And having space for healing, having space for, to have safe spaces, as Gloria was saying, to have safe spaces, healing spaces where we can see, address the burnouts of our daily lives, etc. That's also quite important if we want to, to build that trust, because mental health is such an important part of, of this. So that's what I think. And, and basically, again, back to the internship thing, I think resourcing young people is an important thing. So we are all equals, right? So that power dynamics are not that, so we are kind of equals, yeah. So I hope I'm answering your question, Mariam.
That's great. Let's move on to the next question. I think Cynthia has raised her hand. So if you want to unmute and ask your question.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Cynthia Chemtai from Uganda. And my computer is kind of old school, so I can't turn on my video. You'll forgive me for that. So my project is advocacy. Based on advocacy, I'm mainly doing combating sexual violence against children through advocacy. So, it's girls. They're girls before they become women, of course. So my question to Ines Esteban is that what do you think I should integrate in my projects to make it more effective and to get the kind of outcome that I would need to get, so that we raise a generation of women that are not tortured, or a generation of women that have not gone through sexual violence, or those that have gone through sexual violence but are able to heal. Yeah, thank you.
Cynthia, thank you so much for your question. It's a very important one. So when you mean what do you use the elements that you need to incorporate, do you mean in your in your advocacy plan, or or what? Because, I'm just trying to answer the question in a more precise.
Yes.
Precise. Okay.
The elements that I need to incorporate in order to make it a more effective approach, or a more effective, solution. Yeah.
I think, I will briefly mention what I think the key elements of an advocacy plan are, but I think, and I'm pretty sure that you have done this, but, it is very important to start by listening the stories of survivors. So you have to go and listen to their stories so you can fully understand, what the situation is, what are their needs, what are their priorities, so you can respond to those in your advocacy plan. So listening to them, to their stories, that's a really, really important part of your work. And then in terms of the advocacy plan, as you know, first you have to start with an objective. So what are you trying to achieve? And then you go to who can be who is your target audience, who will be your allies. Then you work on key messages. Then you also think of actions that you want to take, that you think will be effective in order to achieve your objective. Then, you want to do maybe like most people in our advocacy plans include social media campaigns and everything to raise awareness. So, but also important to have physical, offline things like meetings or these, webinars, like educating is a big important part of the advocacy plan. So all these you have to take into account, and then let's say the monitor and evaluation piece, which is was my advocacy plan a success? What are the success metrics that I'm using to evaluate the success of my advocacy plan? So I hope I'm answering your question.
Yes. I've noted down, and thank you so much. That was so helpful.
Okay, of course.
Yes.
Of course, India.
Thank you so much for your questions, India, and thank you, Ines. So we have reached the end of today's webinar. Ines, if you have any social media accounts or email ID through which fellows can be in contact with you and get back to you with certain questions or the amazing work you all are doing at UN Women, you can put that in the chat box. That would be amazing. And the fellows, you all can also drop in your social media accounts or LinkedIn profiles or anything that would help you all connect in the chat box. That would be amazing as well. So thank you, Ines, for joining. It was such an amazing session, so informative, and I'm sure all of us have learned so much from it. Thank you to the fellows, to the Millennium Fellows joining in, taking the time out. Thank you so much again. I would like to remind you that we have our next webinar on 12th of October from 10:45 a.m. to 11:45 a.m. Eastern Time with Rachel Shamer, who is the founder and the CEO of Swipe Out Hunger. And especially, you should join, especially if you are working on the Sustainable Development Goal of Zero Hunger, that is SDG 2. We look forward seeing you there as well. So thank you, everyone. Bye-bye. Take care. Stay safe.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's been a pleasure. I put my email on the chat, okay?